In 1750, a Catholic priest named Antonio Maffei was dragged through the streets of Venice in chains. His crime? Not murder, not treason, not heresy. Owning a book. As they placed the noose around his neck, the executioner held up the evidence, a leather-bound volume with a red cover. The crowd gasped. Some made the sign of the cross, because everyone knew what that red cover meant. Le Dragon Rouge, the Red Dragon, known in Latin as the Grand Grimoire. The church didn't just ban this book. They killed people for possessing it, not because it was blasphemous. The Bible contains blasphemy, Christ's temptation, Job's challenges to God. They killed people for this book because according to the church itself, it worked. Welcome to Deep Dive Thursday. Tonight, we're examining a text so dangerous that for 500 years, simply owning it was a death sentence in most of Europe. A book that claims to teach you how to summon Lucifer and sign a contract with hell. And the uncomfortable historical truth, people who used it often didn't live to regret it. What is the Grand Grimoire? Let's start with what we know for certain. The Grand Grimoire first appeared in print around 1522, though the text claims to be much older, allegedly based on writings by King Solomon himself, specifically the Clavicles of Solomon, dating to 1220 CE in Constantinople. Is that true? Almost certainly not. Solomon died around 931 BCE, and the Solomonic grimoires were written centuries later, medieval forgeries using his name for authority. But here's what matters. The people who used this book believed it was real. The full title is revealing. Le Grand Grimoire avec la grande clavicule de Salomon et la magie noire. The Grand Grimoire with the Great Key of Solomon and Black Magic. It's divided into two parts. Part 1 contains the Sanctum Regnum, the ritual to summon and make pacts with Lucifuge Rofocael, described as Lucifer's prime minister, the demon who handles all infernal contracts. Part 2, called The Secrets of the Grand Grimoire, provides rituals for wealth, love, invisibility, finding treasure, and controlling spirits. But unlike other grimoires, the Key of Solomon, the Lesser Key, the Book of Abramelin, the Grand Grimoire doesn't promise spiritual enlightenment or divine knowledge. It promises power, worldly, material, immediate power, and it requires something other grimoires avoid: blood sacrifice. The text explicitly calls for animal blood in consecrations, human fat in candle making, and the practitioner's own blood for the final pact. This wasn't symbolic. The instructions are precise, clinical, a recipe. And that's what terrified the church. The blood pact, the ritual that terrified Europe. Let me walk you through the primary ritual, the one that got people killed. A Grand Grimoire's central working is the summoning of Lucifuge Rofocael. His name means he who flees the light, and according to the text, he controls all wealth and treasure on earth. Here's what the ritual requires. Preparation takes weeks. First, you need a wand. Not just any wand, a branch of hazelwood or wild almond, cut from a tree that has never borne fruit, cut with a single stroke at sunrise on the day of a new moon. You consecrate it with the blood of a black cat killed at midnight during a waxing moon. The text specifies, the cat must be killed quickly, its blood caught in a new earthen vessel, never used before. Next, 2 candles. The grimoire states they must be made from human fat. It doesn't specify how to obtain this. It just assumes you will. You'll need virgin parchment. The text specifies parchment made from the skin of a stillborn calf. You'll write the pact on this, in your own blood, drawn from your left hand. A circle must be prepared, drawn with a dagger blessed under specific astrological conditions. The circle contains the names of power, Tetragrammaton, Adonai, Agla, and the Shem Ha-Mepharash, the 72-letter name of God from Jewish mysticism. The summoning. Midnight. You must perform this at a crossroads. the traditional meeting place between worlds. You stand in the circle, light the candles, hold the wand, and you recite the Sanctum Regnum invocation. Let me read you a portion. This is translated from the original Latin. Emperor Lucifer, master of all rebellious spirits, I beg you to be favorable to me in the invocation that I make to your Grand Minister, Lucifuge Rofocael, desiring to make a pact with him. I beg you also, Prince Beelzebub, to protect me in my enterprise. The invocation continues for several pages. Every word must be pronounced exactly. The grimoire warns, one mistake and the demon will claim you immediately, without negotiation. If successful, Lucifuge appears. The text describes him as a tall figure, sometimes humanoid, sometimes monstrous, always terrible to behold. He speaks, and his first words are always a trick, an attempt to get you to step outside the circle. If you stay inside, you have protection and you can negotiate. The grimoire provides a standard contract template. Wealth for 20 years, power over men, knowledge of hidden things. The price, your soul, delivered upon death. You write the contract in blood, sign it. Lucifuge signs it. And then, this is critical, you must dismiss him properly. If you don't, the text warns, he remains attached to you. Watching, waiting. How grimoires actually worked in history. Now here's the historical reality we need to understand. In medieval and Renaissance Europe, grimoires weren't fantasy. They were technology. Think about it from their perspective. The world was filled with invisible forces. Diseases appeared without cause. Weather destroyed crops unpredictably. Some people were wealthy, others starved, and no one knew exactly why. The church said, pray, have faith, accept God's will. But grimoires said, you can control these forces. You can bend them to your will. Grimoires were illegal technology, forbidden science, and people used them constantly. Court records from the 1500s, 1700s are filled with trials of people accused of using grimoires. Not just peasants, priests, nobles, even royalty. The difference between the Grand Grimoire and texts like the Key of Solomon is intent. The Key of Solomon claims to work through divine authority. You're not making a pact with demons. You're commanding them in God's name, like Solomon did. The church could kind of tolerate that. It was heretical, but it wasn't infernal. The Grand Grimoire throws that pretense out. It says, forget God, make a deal with the devil, get what you want now. And the blood requirements? Those weren't symbolic. Medieval magic operated on the principle of correspondences. Like attracts like, blood contains life force. Sacrifice demonstrates commitment. The Grand Grimoire's rituals required genuine sacrifice. Animal blood, human remains, the practitioner's own blood, because the text believed power required cost. This is why the church executed people for it, not because it was fake, because they believed it was real, and worse, that it worked. The documented cases, from priests to emperors. Let's look at the historical record. Venice, 1750. Priest Antonio Maffei, executed for owning the Grand Grimoire. The trial records survive. He confessed under torture that he'd attempted the treasure-finding ritual from Part 2. Did he find treasure? No. But 3 members of his congregation died suddenly in the following weeks, all claiming they'd seen a dark figure in their homes at night. The church ruled demonic attachment. Maffei was held responsible, executed. Paris, 1784, the affair of the poisons. During investigations into a massive conspiracy involving poison, black masses, and murder for hire among French nobility, investigators discovered multiple copies of the Grand Grimoire in the possession of Catherine Monvoisin, known as La Voisin. She was a fortune teller who catered to aristocrats. Court records show she performed rituals directly from the Grand Grimoire, including infant sacrifice. She was burned alive. But before her execution, she claimed her rituals had been commissioned by members of King Louis XIV's court. The king ordered the investigation shut down. Some records were destroyed. Others were sealed for 100 years. Napoleon Bonaparte, 1813. Multiple sources, including historian Jacques-Antoine Doulard, and later, occultist Éliphas Lévi, claim Napoleon owned a copy of the Grand Grimoire. After his exile to St. Helena, an inventory of his personal effects included 1 volume, Occult Practices, Origin Unknown. The book vanished, but Napoleon himself, in letters to his wife Josephine, referenced consulting ancient texts for guidance before major battles. Did he use it? We don't know. But he rose from nothing to Emperor of France. And when his luck ran out, Waterloo, exile, death alone on an island, some occultists claimed the 20-year pact had expired. Éliphas Lévi's terrifying experiment. Now we come to the most documented case. Éliphas Lévi. Lévi, born Alphonse Louis Constant in 1810, was a former Catholic priest turned occultist. His writings on magic influenced Aleister Crowley, The Golden Dawn, and virtually all modern ceremonial magic. Lévi was a skeptic. He believed magic was psychological, that rituals worked by altering consciousness, not by summoning actual entities. So in 1854, he decided to test the Grand Grimoire. He obtained a copy. He doesn't say how. He prepared everything according to the text. He fasted. He consecrated the tools. He drew the circle. And on the night of the full moon, he attempted the summoning of Lucifuge Rofocail. In his book Transcendental Magic, published in 1856, Lévi describes what happened. I prepared myself carefully, determined to conduct the experiment to the end. I traced the circle, lit the candles, and recited the invocation. The temperature in the room dropped precipitously. I felt a presence, immense, terrible, ancient. And then I saw him. Not clearly, my vision blurred, as though I were underwater, but I saw a figure, tall, dark, watching me. He spoke, though I heard no voice. The words appeared in my mind. "Why have you called me?" I fled. I broke the circle and ran. I will not attempt this experiment again. Lévi spent the rest of his life insisting magic was psychological, but he refused to ever discuss that night in detail. His students later claimed he woke up screaming for months afterward. Whatever Lévi saw, hallucination, psychological break, or something else, it terrified a man who dedicated his life to studying the occult. Think about it for a second. He consecrated the tools, which means he killed a black cat and obtained human fat for the candles. And as a result of leaving the circle, he probably had a demon attached to him forever afterward. At least according to the warnings within the Grand Grimoire. Why this still matters today. The Grand Grimoire is still in print. You can buy it on Amazon right now. Dozens of editions, dozens of translations, and people still use it. In 2009, an anonymous user on an occult forum posted that he'd acquired what he believed was an authentic 1522 edition. He claimed he was going to attempt the invisibility ritual from Chapter 3. His last post, "I think something followed me back." The account went dormant. Users tried to trace it. Nothing. In 2015, a rare book dealer in Prague claimed to have sold an original Grand Grimoire to a private collector for $75,000. 3 months later, the collector's estate contacted the dealer, asking for provenance information. The collector had died. Heart attack. Age 41. No prior health issues. The book was not among his possessions. Modern occultists debate whether the Grand Grimoire works. Some claim it's symbolic. Others insist the rituals are real, but require correct astrological timing, linguistic precision, and genuine commitment. But here's what interests me. Why does this book keep vanishing? Original copies disappear. Owners die suddenly. Collectors refuse to discuss their acquisitions. If it's just a book, just words on paper, why the pattern? 3 possibilities. 1. Confirmation bias. We remember the dramatic stories, deaths, disappearances, and forget the hundreds of people who own copies and experience nothing. 2. Psychological. The rituals are designed to induce altered states, sleep deprivation, fasting, sensory overload. People hallucinate, make bad decisions, harm themselves. 3. Something else. Maybe the Grand Grimoire is exactly what it claims to be. A functional manual for contacting something very old, very powerful, and very dangerous. And maybe some doors, once opened, can't be closed. For 500 years, the Catholic Church executed people for owning the Grand Grimoire. Not because it was blasphemous, not because it challenged doctrine, because they believed it worked. And the historical record is uncomfortable. People who used this book often experienced exactly what it promised: power, wealth, success, followed by sudden, inexplicable ruin. Napoleon rose from artillery officer to emperor, then lost everything. Eliphas Levi, the skeptic, attempted one ritual and refused to ever speak of it again. Priests, nobles, and collectors across centuries, dead under strange circumstances, their copies of the book vanishing. Pattern or coincidence? I can't tell you if demons are real. I can't tell you if blood pacts work. But I can tell you this: people believed. And belief, whether it summons demons or just unleashes human darkness, has consequences. The Grand Grimoire is still in print. You can still buy it. You can still try the rituals. But before you do, ask yourself, what if the Church was right to be afraid? What if only the original copies of the Grimoire work? What if some knowledge costs more than it's worth? And what if the price isn't your soul, but something you haven't even realized you've already paid?